I'm a 27-year-old woman, and this story starts with a dinner table, a camera, and an aunt who never really saw me. Not truly. Growing up, family gatherings were a whole production. Matching outfits, theme parties, carefully plated food no one was allowed to eat until Denise got her perfect photo for the scrapbook. Denise is my mom's younger sister. She's the type of woman who insists on being called Auntie D because it sounds more charming. Her daughter, Alana, is 1 year older than me and has always been the golden girl. From the time we were kids, it was like Alana got the lead role in the family show and I was cast as the extra in the back. Denise's favoritism wasn't loud or obvious to anyone who didn't know better. She was subtle. If she threw a party, my name would be left off the list, but always with a reason. Must have been a mailing glitch. I thought your mom told you. If people were being introduced, I was always last, and my name was usually followed by she's training to be a nurse, said like it was a disappointment. Alana, on the other hand, could post a photo from her marketing internship and Denise would blast it across every group chat like her daughter had just been elected president. Meanwhile, I'd graduate, pass licensing exams, earn promotions, and not a word. No card, no congrats, nothing. One Christmas dinner really set the tone. Denise greeted every single guest with a personal compliment. Look at you, red's your color. Oh, you've lost weight. Then she got to me, made eye contact, smiled faintly, moved on. My mom caught it, I saw it in her face, but she didn't say anything. She never did. Whenever I tried to bring it up, she'd say Denise was just stressed, or that I was imagining things. One time I mentioned how I felt excluded, and Denise brushed it off with a laugh and said, "You're just sensitive. You know I love all the kids the same." She had this trick at family events where she'd hand my mom the camera. "You've got the best eye," she'd say, then herd everyone into frame, except my mom and me. Those photo albums were barely in them. You'd think we were the distant relatives, not part of the core family, but I tolerated it. For years, I'd show up, be polite, keep the peace. My mom would beg me to just let things go. "Don't start anything," she'd say. "It's not worth it." Then came Denise's 60th birthday. It was going to be a Great Gatsby-themed event, her idea of glamour and class. Big venue, fancy catering. Everyone had to dress in 1920s style. Invitations were custom printed and mailed out in wax-sealed envelopes. My cousin Erin shared a photo of hers in the group chat. Everyone was talking about it, planning outfits, sharing excitement, except me. Nothing came in the mail. No call, no email, not even a text. I only found out about the party because Erin sent a message asking if we were getting ready together. I told her I didn't get an invite. She thought I was joking. My mom asked Denise about it the next day. Denise blinked, smiled, and said it must have been a mailing error. "You know how things get lost in the mail?" she said, even though she had sent out hand-delivered invitations to at least a dozen people in town. My mom looked unsure. I wasn't. It was no error. She knew what she was doing. Denise had spent her life perfecting this quiet exclusion, never loud enough to cause a fight, but sharp enough to cut. And I had let her get away with it, every time. I had played nice. I had smiled. I had taken it. But not anymore. This party, her Precious Gatsby-themed bash with her guest list and rented chandeliers and expensive cocktails, this was going to be different. I wasn't just going to show up. I was going to make sure she saw me, make sure everyone did. And more importantly, I was going to remind her of something she worked hard to bury, something she thought no one remembered, something she had erased so completely, most of our family didn't even know what happened. The story she tells about herself, how she rose from nothing, built a business from scratch, overcame hardship through grit and class. There's a missing chapter in that tale, a chapter with a different beginning, one that includes a man 20 years older, a sudden inheritance, and a lawsuit that she paid to make go away. Most people think of Denise as someone who built an empire on charm and determination, but I know better. I know what really gave her a head start, and I've got the receipts to prove it. So I sent in my RSVP using the family chat link Alana had posted. No one questioned it. Denise didn't respond, didn't confirm, didn't even acknowledge it. Perfect. I ordered a simple dress. Black silk, pearl earrings, understated, but sharp. I booked time off from work, circled the date on my calendar, and started making a plan. I wasn't going to raise my voice or cause a scene. That's not how Denise operates, and that's not how this story needed to unfold. I just needed to be there. Needed her to know I had seen the cracks in her fairy tale. Needed her to realize that the invisible niche she kept in the background wasn't invisible anymore. And by the time the night was over, everyone would know exactly who she used to be, and who she still was behind the glitter. The week of the party, I told my mom I'd be attending. She was washing dishes when I said it. She paused for a moment, eyes still on the sink, and nodded. No questions, no follow-up. Just quiet. I didn't explain why I was going. I didn't need to. Alana had shared the RSVP link in the family group chat weeks earlier, long before anyone realized I hadn't received an invite. I clicked it, filled out the form, and picked the vegetarian meal option. No one removed me. No confirmation from Denise either, but the form went through. Denise's public story had always started with a struggle. She loved talking about how she worked 2 jobs in college, how she started a home business with nothing but a borrowed laptop and big dreams. But that wasn't the real start. Years ago, I was maybe 17, sitting in the hallway during a Thanksgiving prep day while my mom was on the phone with one of her cousins. She was talking softly, door cracked open, thinking I couldn't hear. She mentioned Denise's first husband, someone named Martin, who died in a car crash and left her everything. My mom said the whole reason Denise had been able to buy her house and start her business was because of that inheritance. Not her hustle, not her grit, money. I never forgot that name. A few weeks before the party, I started digging. First, I went to the public records office. Took 2 lunch breaks to do it. I found the marriage license. Denise had married Martin 6 months after college. He was 49. She was 24. 2 years later, he was dead. The car crash was real. So was the lawsuit. Martin's adult children had sued Denise, claiming she manipulated him into changing the will. It settled privately. I found the obituary, clipped from an old local newspaper. There was even a blurry photo of the wedding, Denise in a lace dress, standing next to a man with graying hair and tired eyes. Her smile didn't look anything like the one she posts now. I printed it all, not to be cruel, just to be accurate. Court records, the obituary, marriage license, a few details from the lawsuit filing. I slid the documents into a cream-colored blank card, no writing, just a small gold emblem on the front. I sealed the envelope and labeled it, "Private gift for Denise," to be read aloud during speeches. On the day of the party, I arrived early, before most guests had shown up. I wasn't dressed yet, just in jeans and a hoodie, hair pulled back. I told one of the venue staff that I was helping set up on behalf of the family. I handed them the envelope and asked them to place it near the podium. "It's for Denise's personal thank you segment," I said. They nodded and tucked it into a basket of other cards near the stage. Before leaving, I made sure the slideshow system was operational. There was a digital screen on stage with a rolling presentation that would play during toasts. The event planner had hired a small tech crew for the setup. I approached one of the tech guys, introduced myself, and said I had a special segment to add to the playlist. I gave him a USB drive with a slideshow I had put together. It wasn't labeled, obviously. The file was called Tribute D. Inside were 6 slides, black and white, minimal text, a photo of the wedding, screenshot of the marriage license, clipping of the obituary, headline from the lawsuit article. No names, no narration, just images with dates and locations. I asked the tech guy to insert it into the entertainment portion of the event right before the speeches. I told him Denise had requested it personally. He double-checked the schedule, added the file, and said it would play right after the jazz performance. I thanked him and left. Later that evening, just before the party, I picked up my dress from the cleaners. It was a simple black silk dress, fitted but modest. I added a strand of pearls and pinned my hair up. No heavy makeup, just eyeliner and red lipstick. I looked in the mirror, made sure nothing was out of place, and grabbed my clutch. Outside the venue, I waited in my car until 15 minutes after the start time. The parking lot was nearly full. I walked in slowly, scanning the room as I entered. The place was dressed to the nines. Gold drapes, crystal glasses, roaring 20s decor everywhere. A champagne tower stood near the bar. Waitstaff in flapper costumes carried trays of mini Horse d'Oeuvres. The band was setting up. Guests mingled in sequin dresses and vintage suits. I moved through the crowd quietly. No one stopped me. No one asked why I was there. A few cousins nodded. Aaron waved from across the room. Denise hadn't seen me yet. I found a seat near the back, close to the wall. Perfect view of the stage. Waited as plates were passed and speeches were promised. Right before the entertainment segment, my friend stepped in. He was in costume, a white tux, vintage haircut, slick shoes. He walked up to the mic like a hired performer and introduced himself as a celebration narrator. People laughed. It was expected. Denise clapped, assuming someone had booked him as a surprise tribute. She didn't recognize him, not even a flicker of concern. He began his speech with lines about every chapter mattering, about honoring the full story of a woman's journey. The slideshow behind him flickered to life, and that's when the party started to turn. The ballroom was layered in gold, curtains, table runners, even the lighting. Feathers lined the staircase railing. A jazz band played near the bar, their instruments gleaming under the chandeliers. Near the stage, a 5-tiered champagne tower caught every flicker of light. Guests arrived in waves, dressed in sequins and satin, drinking from coupe glasses and taking photos against the roaring 60 backdrop Denise had printed on a custom step and repeat banner. I walked in right on time, wearing a simple black silk dress and a single strand of pearls, hair tied back, no flashy accessories. Just enough to fit the theme, but not enough to draw attention. Yet, Denise was doing her usual rounds, hugging people too tightly, laughing too loudly, thanking everyone for being part of such a magical evening. She floated from table to table, complimenting outfits, posing for photos, making sure her name was said at least once in every conversation. She passed by me with a tight smile and a quick nod, the kind she gave to distant acquaintances, not a single sign she recognized me as family. I stayed near the back, close to the side wall. Erin waved when she saw me and mouthed, "Glad you came." I raised my glass and smiled. I didn't move from my table, didn't circle the room. I sat quietly, sipping punch and waiting. At 8:00 p.m., sharp, the lights dimmed slightly. A staff member tapped the mic and introduced a special tribute performance to honor the hostess. A few guests clapped lightly, assuming it was a musical number or dramatic reading. My friend stepped up to the mic, dressed in a cream tux with a rose pin on his lapel belt. The room hushed. He introduced himself as a storyteller of lives lived well, a narrator hired to deliver a toast in honor of every version of Denise, past, present, and in between. Denise, seated near the front with her husband and a few of her friends, smiled. She looked around, probably trying to guess who had arranged this surprise. Alana leaned forward in her chair, clearly pleased with whatever was about to happen. He began his speech slowly, talking about every chapter in a person's life deserving to be remembered and how the parts we hide are often the most beautiful. People nodded. Some clapped. Then the screen behind him lit up. Slide 1, a black and white photo of Denise in an old lace wedding dress, holding hands with a much older man. Slide 2, their marriage license, names, date, city. Slide 3, his obituary, with Denise listed as surviving spouse. Slide 4, a newspaper clipping titled "Family Challenges Estate in Bitter Probate Battle." The jazz band had gone silent. No one moved. One of the servers dropped a fork near the bar, and the sound echoed across the room. Denise stopped smiling. Her posture shifted. Her current husband turned toward the screen slowly, read the words, stared at the wedding photo, and then stood up. He didn't say anything. He just picked up his drink, walked around the table, and left through the side door without looking back. Alana froze. Her hand went to her chest. Aaron leaned slightly forward, eyes locked on the screen. Across the room, someone whispered, "Is that real?" The slideshow kept going. Slide 5 was a portion of the lawsuit details, plaintiffs listed as Martin's adult children, accusing Denise of financial coercion. Slide 6, a small scan of a check for the settlement amount, redacted but still marked case closed. The speaker never broke character. He continued with poetic lines about love rewritten, truths that time cannot erase, and what it means to begin again while pretending the past never happened. Denise finally stood up, walked toward the stage, and asked one of the tech staff to stop the slideshow. He shook his head and pointed to a clipboard, showing her that the program had been pre-approved and listed under her event file. He explained it couldn't be modified on the spot, especially since it was pre-approved and attached to the event file under Denise's name. She turned back toward the room, flustered, searching for someone to pin this on, but the screen had already gone black. The segment ended exactly as planned. The lights came back up. A staff member approached the podium and handed her an envelope from the basket of guest notes. The gold label on the front read, "Private gift for Denise," to be read aloud during speeches she opened it where she stood. Inside were the printed court records, marriage documents, and newspaper clippings, the same ones from the slideshow, laid out cleanly. She pulled out one page, stared at it, and then quickly stuffed it all back into the envelope. Her face went white. Her lips tightened. Without another word, she turned and walked out of the ballroom, leaving her own birthday party behind. Her guests looked at each other. Some whispered. Others just sipped their drinks and waited for someone to cue the music again. I stood up slowly, grabbed my clutch, and walked toward the exit. I thanked the tech guy near the stage for his help earlier. He nodded once and looked back down at his clipboard. My friend walked past me a few seconds later, already out of costume and packing up. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. I left through the side door, stepped into the cool air, and made my way to my car. Denise had built an entire identity on image, on who she appeared to be, who she convinced others she had always been. But tonight, that version of her cracked wide open under the lights. And this time, for once, she didn't get to decide who mattered and who didn't. 2 days after the party, my mother mentioned over breakfast that Denise hadn't been picking up anyone's calls. Word was she told a few people she was too emotionally drained to speak. Not surprising. Denise always knew how to retreat when things didn't go her way. Later that evening, Aaron texted me. Alana had started poking around behind the scenes, trying to find out if someone had messed with the slideshow. She'd asked the event planner, the AV team, even a couple of cousins. No one gave her anything. Most of them claimed they didn't know what she was talking about. Technically, they weren't lying. The next morning, Denise sent out a long message to a few family members saying she was looking into legal action against the event company. She blamed unauthorized content during the speech and hinted that someone had infiltrated the run of show. No one responded publicly, but the message made its rounds quickly. Alana didn't stay quiet for long. She dropped a message in the family group chat. Some people just live to sabotage. Disgusting. No names, no context. But it was clear who she meant. My mom, still trying to keep the peace, suggested we host a small dinner at our place, just to clear the air. I told her no. She didn't push after that. 2 days later, Aaron called to say Denise's second husband had quietly moved into a rental property across town. Not a formal separation, but he'd taken most of his clothes and hired someone to audit their shared finances. Apparently, he wanted to verify the timeline of where their money had come from. Alana, meanwhile, went into spin mode. She told a few cousins Denise was just under stress from some health stuff and needed space. Nobody really bought it. One cousin asked if the slideshow was part of her therapy. Another said, "Wasn't that her first husband? I didn't even know she was married before." Denise began scrubbing her digital presence. Her shared family cloud album was updated. Every group photo that included extended relatives disappeared overnight. The new album featured only her and Alana, smiling at various events, none older than 5 years. All captions were rewritten with hashtags like legacy and justice. She also reactivated her old blog, the one she used when promoting her business workshops. It was suddenly filled with old posts about building a dream from scratch and earning every step. No mention of Martin, no mention of lawsuits, just stories about ambition and grit. Aaron and I met up at a diner and compared notes. She told me she had always known Denise played favorites, but hadn't realized how deep it ran, how carefully she'd shaped the family's entire narrative around herself. It wasn't just exclusion, it was control. Lucas, our cousin who usually stayed out of drama, called later that night. He said, "That was strategic art. No violence, just a scalpel. She'll never recover socially." I didn't say much. He wasn't wrong. My mom made one final attempt to convince me to meet Denise for coffee and talk it through. I said no. I reminded her this wasn't a disagreement, it was a correction. She didn't bring it up again. A week later, a family dinner was held at my Aunt Jill's place. I wasn't invited. Word got around that Denise was going, and a few cousins who'd clapped during the slideshow decided to stay home. The guest list shrunk last minute, and the ones who showed up kept things polite. According to Aaron, Denise broke down partway through the meal, said she'd been publicly betrayed by her own blood, and that she never thought family would turn on her like that. Most people just nodded and kept eating. And just like that, Denise, the woman who used to plan every menu, control every seating chart, and steer every conversation, was now the one being whispered about. The one not everyone invited. The one people pitied, avoided, or quietly discussed behind napkins. For the first time, she wasn't controlling the room. She was the story being told. About a week after the family dinner, Denise reappeared with a new event. She called it Fresh Starts and New Circles. It wasn't hosted at a traditional venue, just a rooftop garden space downtown with catered whores, DOEveries, and minimalist decor. The invite list was small. Only her closest friends, a couple of former coworkers, and Alana. No extended family received an invitation. Aaron found out through a friend of a friend who had been invited by mistake. My mom tried again to smooth things over. She made Denise's favorite lemon pound cake, boxed it up with a handwritten note, and dropped it off at her house. 3 days later, the container showed up on our doorstep, washed but untouched. No note, nothing. Shortly after that, a new digital album appeared on the family cloud. It was labeled Denise's Gatsby Night, Final Cut. Every photo had been filtered, sharpened, and carefully arranged. There were no shots of the speech, no slideshow, no images of me or my table. Just smiling faces, edited memories, and a version of the night that never actually happened. Alana started unfriending cousins on social media. Anyone who had liked or commented on posts about the party tribute was slowly removed. A few cousins reached out to each other, comparing notes. It became clear she was trying to rebuild their image from scratch, one connection at a time. Through Erin, we learned Denise had told one of her old friends that the photos shown during the party had been digitally planted by someone who had hacked her cloud. She claimed someone with a grudge had inserted fake documents and manipulated her files. When pressed, she implied the culprit might be a jealous family member who resented her success. Her online profile started changing too. She updated her bio across platforms to say founder, speaker, survivor. She added quotes about self-worth, discipline, and courage. Any mention of legacy wealth or family support was scrubbed. She was all about independent beginnings and redefining the self. Meanwhile, her second husband, still living apart, filed official paperwork for partial separation of assets. According to Erin, the filing cited financial opacity as the cause. He hadn't accused her of anything directly but made it clear he no longer wanted their finances joined. Denise left town 2 days later. She booked a solo retreat in Arizona, some sort of wellness spa in Sedona. She started posting filtered photos of orange skies, crystal shops, and yoga mats. Every caption had a quote about rebirth or transformation. No tags, no names, just vague captions like what no one sees is the climb behind the smile. My mom called one night and finally broke down. She said she didn't understand how things had fallen apart so badly. She just kept repeating, "This isn't how our family was supposed to be." I told her the truth, that we hadn't changed anything. We had just revealed what was already there. We didn't light the fire. We just stopped pretending the smoke wasn't filling the house. Denise skipped the next few family events. A baby shower, our uncle's 70th birthday. Each time, she sent a text the morning of, saying she needed solitude, healing, or space. No one followed up. No one tried to convince her. Erin and I met for lunch the following weekend. We talked about how different everything felt. No more walking on eggshells during family events. No more wondering what Denise would think or say. No sideways comments. No last-minute photo ops that excluded half the room. Alana tried to regain ground with a cousin's only dinner at a wine bar downtown. She sent out invites to a dozen of us. Only 4 responded. 3 showed up. Erin said the vibe was stiff and weird. Alana tried to act normal, but people kept glancing at their phones, leaving early, and avoiding group photos. A few nights later, my grandmother called to check in. She rarely comments on family drama, but this time she said, "Denise always set fires behind smiles. You just finally put water on one. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about winning." Something had shifted. The family felt quieter, calmer, less like we were all orbiting one person and more like we could breathe without her shadow hanging over every gathering. 6 weeks after Denise's birthday disaster, I received a thick cream-colored envelope in the mail. Handwritten address, wax seal, and inside, an invitation printed on textured cardstock. Denise was hosting a charity gala. The theme was restoration and resilience, black tie optional, cocktail hour at 6, dinner and speeches at 7. The venue was a private ballroom near the waterfront. At the bottom of the invitation, a slogan was printed in gold foil: "Every woman has a past, but not every woman has the strength to own it." My name wasn't just on the envelope, it was printed clearly on the guest list insert inside. It wasn't a mistake. This was planned. My mom warned me not to go. She said it could be a trap, or a chance for Denise to make herself the victim in front of an audience. She thought maybe Denise would twist the whole situation and make it look like I had targeted her out of jealousy or spite. I RSVP'd anyway. The night of the event, I wore a slate gray gown and a low bun. No dramatic jewelry, no flash, just clean lines and calm expression. I walked in alone. The ballroom was spotless, glass centerpieces, dim lighting, a soft string quartet playing near the stage, but only about half the seats were filled. A few familiar faces from Denise's usual circle were missing. Some guests stayed near the walls or hovered around the open bar. The energy was off. People were waiting, unsure of what kind of show they were walking into. At 7:15, Denise stepped onto the stage. She wore a deep red dress and a microphone clipped to her collar. The lights dimmed. The music stopped. She opened by thanking everyone for coming and talking about the quiet strength it takes to rebuild after you've been torn down. Then came the part where she framed herself as a survivor of betrayal, not naming names, not pointing fingers directly, but carefully choosing words that made it sound like someone close had tried to ruin her. She spoke about being blindsided, about public humiliation, about how dignity is tested in moments when people you love decide to use your past as a weapon. She paused for effect, looked around the room, then locked eyes with me. "Even when you're torn down," she said, her voice steady, "grace rises." The room went silent. All eyes moved from her to me, waiting to see what I'd do. I didn't react. I took a sip from my glass, set it down, and clapped once politely. A few others followed. Denise smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her performance had missed its mark. She'd expected something: anger, a walkout, a comment. But I gave her nothing. That silence said more than anything else could have. After the speech, guests moved around awkwardly. Conversations restarted in hushed tones. A couple of people looked in my direction but didn't come over. Denise walked past me near the dessert table. She stopped just long enough to say, "Thank you for coming." I looked her in the eye and replied, "Always happy to support honest storytelling," then turned away. Alana hovered near the exit, whispering in a small cluster of people. Her eyes flicked to me more than once, but no one approached. As I headed out, a woman I didn't know stopped me near the coat check. Mid-40s, sharp bob, silver clutch. She smiled and said, "Whatever really happened?" People noticed. That kind of power? It's rare. Most folks just wish they had the guts. I thanked her and walked into the night. Denise could rewrite her story as many times as she wanted. She could dress it in velvet, wrap it in quotes about healing, and deliver it to any audience willing to listen. But the people who were there that night in gold and feathers, the ones who saw the slideshow and the envelope and the silence that followed, they wouldn't forget. Not when the lights were brightest. Not when it mattered most. About a month after the charity gala, Denise's name quietly faded from family conversations. No one said anything official. She just stopped coming up. People talked about work, kids, weekend plans, but not her. It wasn't a boycott. It was silence. When cousin Lena planned her engagement dinner, she didn't include Denise. Later, she told me she wanted a night where no one sucked the air out of the room. No drama, just food and laughter. Alana called my mom 2 days before the dinner, pretending to ask for an old cookie recipe. Halfway through the call, she slipped in a question about who was invited. My mom dodged it. No answer. Just changed the subject and never circled back. The dinner itself was small, maybe 20 of us. Simple dishes, homemade desserts, no formal program. People stayed late. They lingered around the table, poured extra glasses of wine, and helped clean up without being asked. Someone mentioned halfway through that Denise wasn't there, then shrugged. The conversation moved on. Shortly after, Denise's second husband finalized the separation. He moved into a quiet condo by the golf course. No messy divorce, no court battles, just 2 signatures and a clean split. She kept the house. He kept the peace. Erin later told me that one of her friends had looked up Denise's consulting firm, the one she'd promoted after the gala. It was registered under her maiden name. No staff listed. No phone number. The website had a contact form that led nowhere. It was all shell. No substance. Then came the flowers. At a cousin's baby shower, a bouquet arrived with a card signed warm wishes, D, Rose. No one said anything, but we all knew. At our uncle's retirement lunch, another bouquet, same name, same signature, no return address. Just a weak rebrand no one acknowledged. One morning, over coffee, my mom set down her mug and told me something she'd never said out loud. She admitted Denise had always made her feel like a lesser version, like her choices weren't enough, her voice too soft. She thought that's just how families worked, that you put up with it. Let the louder one take the space. I told her that wasn't family, not real family. Real family didn't make you compete for belonging. That weekend, my mom hosted a brunch for the first time in years. She cooked everything herself, quiches, scones, even fresh juice. She invited every cousin, aunt, and uncle. They all came, except Denise. The house was full. People spread out across the living room and kitchen. Plates piled high. Kids ran through the backyard. For once, no one paused to see who was watching. No one filtered their laughter. Erin sat beside me and leaned in. "You didn't just take her down," she said. "You gave us permission to stop pretending." A few days later, Alana tried to organize a cousin's mixer at a trendy wine bar. She created a group chat. Not one reply. The chat went quiet. No explanations, just silence. Denise's birthday came and went. No save the dates. No rented hall. No custom menus. No curated hashtags. Just an empty calendar. Just another Tuesday. For someone who had spent her whole life orchestrating spotlights, nothing hurt more than being unseen. And that was happening now, on its own, or without confrontation, without reminders. She was simply no longer the center. She had built everything on being the one everyone watched. Now, no one was looking.